Okay. Thank you first of all to Simon from London Peterson, comrades who helped to pull today's demonstration together. This is not the first time that I've been here outside the Kazakh embassy protesting against this murderous regime. I, along with comrades, particularly comrades in what's now International Socialist Alternative, were here just over a decade ago after a massacre of oil workers in Janozan. We were here many times in subsequent years protesting and fighting for the freeing of political prisoners against this vile dictatorship. But today is different to all of those occasions, because today we are protesting in the wake of an uprising that has taken place across the length and breadth of that vast country. A revolution, to give it its right name, which has forced the resignation of the government, and were it not for the actions of Putin and his gang of guns, it could very well have already gone further in forcing out President Tokayev, along with the ghoulish figure who lingers above the regime in Kazakhstan of Blair's best friend, the Sultan Nazarbayev. And Tokayev labels the Kazakh people, working people in Kazakhstan, terrorists. At the same time, on our own news screens, we rarely get coverage of Kazakhstan, but we have seen him with our own eyes pledging murder, mass murder, which of course we know is not just a threat, it is being carried out as we speak. His is a regime of terror, and now it is being backed up by Russian state terror. And they believe, or they may hope, that this is now over. But what we know is that revolutions are not single events, they are processes. And the forces that have been amassed over the last week are not simply going to disappear. The anger, the fury and the hope that we've seen on the streets of Kazakhstan cannot simply be forced into the background and forced away through the terrorism that Tokayev's regime is carrying out. And now we also have to ask ourselves questions here. Our first duty as socialists, as working people, is to solidarity. And the greatest traditions of the workers' movement say that the struggle of workers in any country, in any continent, are our struggles, that their victories are our victories, that their defeats are our defeats, and that we must fight to stand in solidarity in all cases, especially when people are facing such brutal repression as they are now in Kazakhstan. I just have to sort out my notes. As Simon said in his introduction, where did it begin? It began with oil workers, particularly the oil workers in, again I apologise for my pronunciation, Mangistau. It spread from there like wildfire to what became a de facto general strike across huge sections of industries. It was workers, it was young people, including many unemployed, and even some of the riot police, some of the state forces, the troops, were joining and coming over to the side of the protesters. And these seem the reminiscent of some of the many mass movements and revolutions that have taken place over the last decade. It was just around 10 years ago when we were out on demonstrations like this in solidarity with the people of the Middle East and North Africa, of Egypt, Tunisia and so on, who also in heroic mass movements overthrew dictatorships. And those movements, heroic as they were, are also important for us to reflect on now, because they offer for us important lessons. Arab Spring, sadly and tragically, turned into Arab winter. And we have to ask, what are the lessons for us? Crucial, I think, is the importance of the self-organisation of working class people. And we see the glimpse of that see huge importance hints of that already in Kazakhstan, in the movements that are taking place, in the workers in Zhanozhan and in other areas, particularly in the oil and gas works and so on. Self-organisation of working class people, that needs to be done industrially, as we're already starting to see. It needs to take place across communities. We need to see democratic committees of workers, of young people, and of the unemployed, pensioners, and so on. But it also needs to be political organisation, political self-organisation. There are many who would seek to claim that they are the leaders of this movement at present. People who would seek power for themselves in Kazakhstan. People who would seek to use their supposed position in order to themselves loot from the working class people of that country. And we must say no to those so-called self-proclaimed leaders who do not come from the workers' movement. We need a leadership of working class people which poses the question of democracy in Kazakhstan. And that, of course, means not just real democratic reform, not just in the sphere of politics, but actual social change. And that means that we have to take power from the hands of the oligarchs, from the hands of the tiny, rich 1% who use that position in order to loot and in order to enrich themselves, and to put it in the hands of working class people. We need to fight and support the fight and every struggle that can be waged for democratic, socialist change in Kazakhstan, public ownership over the means of producing wealth by workers, by the people who produce it. And today we offer our solidarity to them, to Kayabal, Nazarbayeval, and for democratic socialist change in Kazakhstan, across Central Asia and across the world.
Thanks very much. Thank you. I can't